G'day, I'm David, and this week we're road testing the very new Toyota Prado. And that is a large SUV, but it does have very off-road capability. Now in Australia, the sales are absolutely booming. And in fact, without this surge, Toyota would have a year-to-date sales figure that was markedly declined. Well, in this video, we will talk about the range of variants that are available. Then we'll look in detail at the outside, the inside, and what it's like on the road. So the exterior, they claim it's all new, yet they use the word retro in a way. And they say it has some reflections of Toyota four-wheel drives past. I think mainly the FJ Cruiser, which we no longer have here in the Australian market, but was distinctively different in its approach, in its looks. The front is still strong. They do say there's an aluminium body with a bit of a dip in it to help visibility. But as we have talked about, if you're a 2-year-old or even up to a 9-year-old, if you're a little small, you're not going to be seen there. That can be a problem. The lights at the front, LEDs, there's 3 of them here, so adaptive high beam can be affected by that use. The squares, that's also similar to the Camry a little. I quite like it. It's a bit different. We've had big round lights in the past. We've had squinty lights, but now these very distinct 3 lights across there, I think is not bad. Now, one of the features they've talked about is to say that the gaps are going to be a bit bigger. Now, maybe not in all cases, and even here, it doesn't seem that way. Their argument is that if you have a little prang, you don't want to cause a domino effect of hitting other panels and thus causing more damage. They do say that there's a bit of design here to do with trying to minimise the damage to pedestrians if you hit them. That's difficult to do and yet to be seen. I think the overall look of it is not quite as square and as bullish as some. I think the angle here helps that a bit, and I like that. I think just looking like a Mack truck is lacking imagination. And I think the square oblong shapes that they use a lot are important. Let's have a look at the side. Starting off with the wheels. Now, we've got the Kakadu model, that's the top of the range, and that's got 20-inch, as does the VX. So the 2 top of the range vehicles have 20-inch rims. Other thing about it is the base model and the mid-spec both have 18-inch rims, although they are different in their design, as is this one here. Very solid sort of spokey design with a little bit of angles here, making sort of triangles, which I think is quite good because it seems to give the strength where you need it rather than just one thin spoke, the strength where you need it up at the end of the forces that are coming into it. Down the side here, huge big rectangular side mirrors. Some wondered why you really need it to be so tall when you really ought to have it so wide, but they're not quite as dominant as some of, say, the Silverado HD, which has these massive ones that obscure your view if you're on a roundabout or that. And the other thing is there are blinkers in here as well. Now, looking down the side, every model has one of these running boards, but this one in the Kakadu, top of the range, has lighting to it to help old people be able to see it, perhaps in the dark, even from the passenger side. I'm talking on behalf of a friend. Down here, they've lowered this a bit. You notice that? It's, the waistline is a little lower. There's a distinct line on here, but most of it, there's a change of panel here that I think in different light sort of breaks up the starkness of the side. Not over the top, but I think it works for what it does. And as I say, more visibility. Big square windows. This one has roof racks. Most of the models have roof racks, except for the base model from memory. At the back here, they've stuck with very much the squarish sort of angles, including the lights. Headlight up there. Now this here has been strengthened so you can put some weight on it. It's a bit difficult for me to climb on there, and I guess that would be the ultimate test, but they tell me that's good. and you have a range of features and symbols. Now, I think it's the upmarket models that give you 7 seats. Great for carrying people, and an interesting use of a little box thing here, which is very easy to open and works well. And that's a nice carry box. I guess that might be able to come out. But what you see here quite clearly is that there's very minimal room with these seats. If they were up, when they're down, they cramp the amount available of vertical space. A couple of things in the back. There is a 220 volt thing here. Close the lid when not in use. Okay. I presume then it's not a hybrid, so you could keep the engine running to do it. Tether points here, but these aren't. These are just strap holding points. Now, if you're going to have a third row of seats, which is not going to have a lot of room, it's for the leg room particularly, you want to put young people in there. But if you want to put very young people in there in a proper seat for children, you need to have tether straps, and these don't. So it's a bit of, it looks good but doesn't quite go far enough. Now they do fold up, although given that you've got the second row of seats, well, that's to get access, of course, but it's not really going to give you capacity to store things. But with it down, you can see that you do get a more consistent, but again, they're good solid seats, and the amount of vertical room is not a lot. Of course, if you do put 2 baby seats in the place that's where there are anchor points, you pretty well eliminate being able to get into the back. This is a 60-40 split, and if you could have done the middle one down, you might be able to squeeze, but clearly you can't. So adults would have to get in via the back, which I've done with some cars, but I do not look very elegant doing it.
If you value independent journalism or simply enjoyed the video, please support the channel by hitting like and subscribe.
Now, this car is based on the Land Cruiser LC300. It's not quite 5 metres long. It's compared to the old car, it is 165 millimetres longer. It is wider as well, and 90 millimetres taller. One would really have to just check the clearance in your local shopping centre to make sure that you can get in. Overall, though, it's saying that it's a bigger vehicle and it's got that extra size, particularly for interior space. Okay, oh, here we go. Now, you remember we had this problem with the Camry. No hydraulics here. Now, in Australia, we get the 2.8 litre diesel, which has 150 kilowatts, not huge, but 500 newton metres of torque. That's pretty good. Some of the markets have talked about a slightly smaller engine, but with a mild hybrid. I'd like to see us moving in that direction if we can. The overall point about it, I think, and we'll talk about that when we drive, is that you can hear the motor most of the time. Only time when it doesn't is when you go on a motorway, get above about 80 or so kilometres an hour, and the road noise starts to overtake, so to speak. So a good, sturdy, solid engine, and what they've been doing, of course, is making them more efficient over time. I had a friend say to me, I wanted to buy a Land Cruiser, but it's not a V8. I said, well, the V6 that they use in that particular model is A, more powerful, and B, more efficient. And he said, yeah, but it's not a V8. Image, feeling, emotion. And the other thing that gives it good performance, of course, is it's an 8-speed automatic gearbox that gives it certain smoothness, not a CVT in things like the Camry, and one that obviously you don't want a manual really for off-roading, because playing with the clutch in very rough situations, many people, perhaps not some traditionalists, but many people prefer the automatic. But 8-speed, of course, also means better economy and better use of the power. So they say the extra size gives it extra room, and everyone has these step-up panels to help. And it's an SUV, so you don't have to duck your head. Now, quite a lot of four-wheel drives go for ground clearance, and so that can push things up and give you limited support under your legs. And if I were to sit with my feet back, that's pretty much the problem I've got. But fortunately, even though it's got electric seats, I can get my feet under the car there. I'm sitting bolt upright a bit. I wonder if I can adjust the seat back a little. Oh, yes, I can. It's an issue as to what you might like, but clearly I've now got pretty good room, good support, and given it's the up top of the range Kakadu, I do have a lot of controls here. I have both heated seats and cooled seats in the second row. I love cooled seats. I think that would work well. Power points, and this is, I think, the only 12-volt system. So for my dash cam, I've linked to the back here. But room has been out in the dirt, and it has a huge sunroof. Now we'll peel that back to show you what that's like. So here we are in the Toyota Prado, and it's the top of the line Kakadu. The immediate response in getting into it is what they say. It's very square. They want to reflect what has been a bit of an off-road four-wheel drive tradition. It also has two screens that are in two tiers. And again, they're proud of that because it's a little bit like the four-wheel drive, even though, of course, they're both digital. The screen in front is digital, and it's got the two dials of tacho and speedo with some information within each dial as well. But in the upmarket models, the bit in the middle is a bit bigger. It has more space. It has a bit of information that you've got to work rather hard to do to understand. The screen here is the same for all. What's 12.3 inches, but in this upmarket, a couple of the upmarket models, I do have a head-up display, which is rather good. I haven't found out how to adjust it yet, but this one is down low and a strip across the bottom. It doesn't intrude into the space greatly. Some people feel that that's really one of the weaknesses of a head-up display. It's too intrusive. It takes your attention from the road ahead. I like them, and I like them low but easy to see. It's got a bit of colour in it as well. The layout of the dials here, good solid buttons for climate and particularly in mode, and the power points mainly USB-Cs. There's no just straight USBs. The button for the view is there. That's really important. I need to know where that is. And the layout, it doesn't have a 12-volt here. It has one in the back. I get heated and cooled seats, but so does the second row because it's a Kakadu version. And I can heat the steering wheel and so on. Driver mode and downhill descent and crawl and things, hold, passion brake. And now the four-wheel drive options are pretty simple. There's high and low in four-wheel drive, and so it's clearly permanent. The layout gives me a number of cup holders, and the space over on the side here, you've got to squeeze a little bit and got to fight it a little bit, but it does hold things like the large drink container. This to get it in. I don't want to really have to do that if I've grabbed it while I'm driving. Oh, by the way, there is, again in the Kakadu model, a phone charger. In front of me, the layout, they've redone this, where you have upper left is infotainment, upper right is safety, such as cruise control, and then the down below, at the bottom parts of it, are sound, be it voice, but also mode, being able to pick the mode of the particular music or whatever. So what I have in front of me is, because we're in the upmarket models, is the big wide digital screen, which has the two dials, the speedo and the tacho, and a little bit of information in between. But they're saying that the lower models only have a 7-inch. Well, that's quite reduced. So I guess you're getting far less information in the middle. I've got drive mode here, but there's actually a selector here that can take me from the bottom between Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, Sport Plus or Custom. There's one thing we should note in that it's an upmarket model, that we have a cool box. It cools the container there. You have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and this model has a 14-speaker JBL system. It's good to have, but as we'll see, perhaps the engine noise could be a little quieter to enjoy that fully, perhaps more once you've parked and enjoying a great view. Then perhaps that's the time to really enjoy the sound system. So we'll take it for a couple of drives and reflect on it in various locations. I've now got it in eco mode, which I find has all very light steering. It does have a great turning circle. I must give it that. But this eco mode is almost a bit artificial, a bit too light. Let's see if we can step up a bit. The thing I note here is it's got drive information, but it doesn't give me the fuel or usage, the consumption. So I can't sort of get to the end of a trip and say, well, on this long trip, I've managed to get X number of litres per 100. Certainly not to compare it. Now, I do know on here I can get some history, which gives me the fuel consumption on a graph every minute, and so it only gives me 15 minutes. So I'm not going to get all the past information. I'll see if this gives me more average figure for the whole trip. You can see that it's just gone on to stop-start and gone to the stop part of it, which with a diesel engine sometimes I can find that rather annoying, but I've got to say that there's a pretty good reason for it. When you start looking at the fuel consumption minute by minute and you get into urban traffic, and I had 9 minutes of hell trying to get through basically 2 intersections, but the main one was the controlling one. I found that, you know, without the stop-start, the consumption was through the roof. Well, in essence, a lot of it was just idling. And so, you know, it's going to give an infinite fuel consumption. You're getting no distance while your engine's still running. Now, I just faintly let the brake off a little, and so it didn't go to stop. I didn't let it right off, I just backed it off a smidgen. Now, I might be able to change that to get fuel consumption for the particular trip. I did have a go at that, but it didn't seem to work, but let's see if I can take that a bit further. You see, I have a dial that's showing me my instantaneous fuel consumption. And it's got a bar that shows the total. Trip information, current. You see that current still doesn't show me my fuel consumption. It's just trip information. Now, it's got this little thing, of update, which keeps me for the whole day. So I can't go back and find it unless I've updated it. So it's now telling me that for the 1st of the 6th when I had it, 20 litres per 100 I'm doing. And of course, because I stopped, it's gone up to 30. And here's the latest. It doesn't show me the latest unless I update it. So at the moment I'm averaging 39. And I think this makes the point that we try and strongly emphasise that the average fuel consumption could be totally irrelevant to you depending on where you use the car. If I'm going to use this car in urban areas on relatively short runs, then the answer's clear. I'm going to use very high miles per gallon. It is coming down now, in part. That could be because I've been idling a bit. I'm just starting to get used to this, which is the camera in the rear vision mirror, because it depends on multifocal lenses as to whether it looks like it's a bit out of focus or it is out of focus to what you're perceiving.
Have your own thoughts? We'd love to hear them, good, bad, or in between. Have a chat with us by dropping a comment below.